Okay, so today we're jumping into a story that absolutely blew up on the internet. It's a viral Reddit post about a bunch of ruined wigs that sparked this massive debate about family, about responsibility, and, where we draw the line between a mistake and something much worse.
And it all kicks off with this one question. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she can't play with my girlfriend's wigs? Now, on the surface, that seems pretty straightforward, right? But believe me, it is so much more complicated than it sounds. A 26-year-old guy, totally at his wit's end, went to the internet to ask, was he in the wrong here?
All right, so let's break down who's who in this whole mess. First, you've got the guy who wrote the post. He's 26. Then there's his girlfriend of 5 years, Maddie, also 26. And right at the center of this whole storm is his younger sister, 16-year-old Helena.
Now, here's the thing. To really get why this all exploded, you have to understand, these weren't just fashion accessories. For Maddie, these wigs were, well, they were everything.
See, just last year, Maddie was diagnosed with something called alopecia universalis. It's an autoimmune condition, and it results in the complete loss of all hair on your body. So for her, these wigs aren't about style. They're a really crucial part of her confidence, of how she feels just going out into the world. And you really get a sense of how deep their relationship is from this one quote from the brother. When Maddie's hair started falling out, he saw how much it was affecting her, so he just buzzed all of his own hair off in solidarity. This wasn't just her problem to deal with alone, they were in it together.
But here's where it gets a little dark. According to the brother, this wasn't some random one-off thing. There was this pattern of really disrespectful behavior from his sister, Helena. She would constantly pester Maddie, ask her to take the wig off, ask if she could have them, and at one point she even tried to physically tug a glued-on wig right off Maddie's head, a total violation of her boundaries.
And all of this leads up to the moment where everything just completely falls apart. The couple goes on a much-needed vacation, and they trust Helena to watch their apartment. But while they were gone, something pretty shocking showed up on their phones.
I mean, the timeline here is just wild. They're in Greece, trying to relax, and suddenly, the brother starts getting these TikToks sent to him, and it's his sister, Helena, and her friends in his locked bedroom, wearing and even cutting one of Maddie's wigs. He immediately texts her, tells her to stop, and warns her that she's going to have to pay for any damage. She apologizes, says they were just having fun, but they had no idea how bad it really was until they got back home.
And we're not talking about a little trim here. This quote from the post, man, it just paints this awful picture of what they came home to. A wig, bleached, dyed pink, and destroyed to the point where it was practically hay. This was pure destruction of something that was not only super expensive, but also deeply personal.
So as you can imagine, when they get home and see this, it leads to a huge, intense confrontation, and it basically splits the family right down the middle.
And right away, the battle lines are drawn. You've got the brother on one side, and he is not backing down. He says his sister was completely disrespectful and needs to learn a lesson. The only thing he'll accept is Helena paying Maddie back for the damage. But on the other side, you've got his mom, who just brushes it all off. She says she's just a kid, tells him he's being dramatic, and that he needs to cool down.
And then you have Maddie caught right in the thick of it all. Even though she's the one who was wronged, she's actually trying to be the peacemaker here, saying it's just material. But her boyfriend isn't buying it. He thinks this was intentional, that it all came from a place of jealousy. And that's really the question at the heart of this, isn't it? Was this just a dumb teenage mistake, or was it a targeted, malicious act?
So he's furious. He's getting absolutely nowhere with his family. So what does he do? He takes the whole story to Reddit's Am I the Asshole forum, where, millions of people basically act as a jury for these kinds of moral dilemmas.
So the internet had to decide, was this guy out of line for demanding his 16-year-old sister personally pay back what was likely thousands of dollars in damage? What do you think?
Well, the verdict came in, and it was fast. And it was not close. The community overwhelmingly decided NTA, not the asshole. But honestly, the verdict itself isn't even the most interesting part. It's the reasons they gave.
So the first big reason they gave, it completely tears apart the mom's whole "she's just a kid" excuse. Commenters were just not having it. They were like, she's 16, not 7. She's only 2 years away from being a legal adult. And the consensus was pretty clear. At 16, you are definitely old enough to know better, and this kind of thing crosses the line into malicious.
Next, people started looking at the intent behind it all, and they argued this wasn't just one bad choice, right? It was a whole chain of them. First, you break into a locked room. Then you invite your friends over to join in. Then you intentionally cut and dye the wigs. A lot of people saw this as a clear escalation of what they called mean girl bullying behavior.
And finally, the community really started to dig into the psychology of it, you know? A lot of people thought this all came from a place of jealousy. The mother got a ton of criticism for what they called enabling this behavior, by just making excuses for it. And maybe most importantly, people reframed what these wigs actually are. They're not just accessories. They're expensive, custom items, and for Maddie, they are essential. People compared destroying them to destroying a prosthetic limb or a wheelchair.
And that's really what this all boils down to, right? It leaves us with this huge lingering question. Where do you draw that line between protecting your family and just enabling really bad behavior? At what point does trying to shield someone from consequences actually end up hurting them and everyone else way more in the long run?